You're strong.
I know.
It's okay. I've got you now.
Just like in the movies.
Welcome to SuperWonder Legacy. I am Jared. I'm here with Brit. What's up, Brit?
Hello, hello.
And then, of course, what's kind of funny is, so we're talking about Wonder Woman: Spirit of Truth by Paul Dini and Alex Ross. And what's kind of funny about this is that, of course, we're covering a Wonder Woman story the week that I drop Wonder Woman from my pull list because of Tom King's BSery. Of course, and somehow it's lined up so perfectly.
It has. I mean, it's lined up, but at the same time, it's kind of very disappointing.
It's
Um,
well, disappointing, more like infuriating. Because I'm sorry, Wonder Woman 8 at this point is despicable. But anyway, I don't want to get into a rant about this. If you will want to see a rant about this, check out my short that has over 400 views. So anyway, let's get to work on this. So so the thing about this is, like, Brit and I have covered Alex Ross's work before with like Kingdom Come, and this came out after Kingdom Come, correct?
yes.
So do you want to give like some brief like background on A Spirit of Truth for us?
Okay, so it is the fourth book of a series for the JLA, written by Paul Dini, and it seems like, I guess, Alex, he has, of course, the artistic vision, of the scenes and everything like that, but he needs a writer to really, nail down the dialogue or,
Yeah.
certain things like that. And that's understandable.
Mhm.
Some artists can't actually project um what the characters say
Mhm.
and give. It's kind of like you can give the details in your mind, but you can't really find the words to write it down.
Exactly.
And but he can, you know, draw and
You can
paint,
draw damn
you
well.
know, these amazing um, pieces. So the series is called The World's Greatest Superheroes. And I think it was 2006 that it was
Okay.
published. But yeah, so this is the fourth book, and it's basically about Diana. She's trying to find herself. Find herself, and she just, you know, honestly, this story really is a point of view of an immigrant,
Mhm.
as this whole
Yes.
show is about, is really diving into Clark and Diana's immigrant and refugee roots. And this is one of the stories. This is one of the stories that really emphasize for me, as even writing Diana too, is her perspective and what she sees in the world, is how can she be a hero and help without, like, invading, feeling as though she's invading, or stepping, a bound. Is she hindering people? All heroes, are they helping or hindering?
Well,
Because
yeah, and the other thing that's interesting about this, when I noticed reading it, and I'll talk about this when we get to that part of the book, it also contradicts the whole statement by Tom King when he said that Wonder Woman's a walking contradiction, that she's a warrior and a being of peace. And I'm like, actually, when I read that a specific line in this book, which we'll talk about when we get there, I was like, oh, so I see where you misunderstood, bro.
Yeah, she's not a contradiction because as a warrior, that can really, he oversimplified it. A warrior can be a person, it's just a person who fights.
Mhm.
And that doesn't necessarily mean a sword and bloodshed. It is, you have a social justice warrior, and basically that is who the heroes are in the first place. It's not the social justice warriors of today
I
that's
was about to say,
very,
I was about to say, to be
no,
clear, it's
no.
not the crazy ones.
Yeah, it's just like feminists. It's not the ones of today that are really extreme and take the, you know, these the root of uh and the meaning of those certain, labels. You get to see Superman and Wonder Woman actually be what the purpose of those meanings. And with Diana, she is a warrior of peace. She is fighting for peace. That is just what that means. Oversimplifying it as in thinking that a warrior is, she's basically just fighting with a sword, that is wrong.
Well, plus
So
also George Washington, I believe, had said that like in order to ensure peace, you must prepare for war. In other words, sometimes you have to be prepared for a fight in order to enforce peace. That's just the way it works.
yeah, that is the way the world is. You do have to, have war and all of that balance and stuff like that, the circle of life, da da da. But still, with Wonder Woman, it's like, I mean, how Tom King is writing her. He said that she put the sword down, but at the same time, she's fighting with her fist. She's using the lasso and everything like that.
She's
But
getting
it's just,
bloodied. That
but
ain't
she's
peaceful,
yeah,
bro.
yeah, but she's still punching and, like you said, getting bloodied. She's still, sh it's the way she acts, or actually, she doesn't have an act. She's
No, she
very
doesn't.
stoic.
And,
She's very stiff.
and now looking back on it, I'm kind of insulted that he said he was inspired by Gal Gadot's portrayal of Wonder Woman. I'm like, no, she's way more charismatic than your Wonder Woman.
He it was I think it's her accent. He says the way she speaks is the way he writes Diana when she speaks. And I'm still kind of like, I don't know if
Mm-mm.
that goes.
I didn't get that when I was reading his book. But yes, I dropped it after reading 7 issues. I gave it 7 issues, and he didn't. And if anything, he made me dislike his version of Wonder Woman. But anyway, we have to get back to this book. This isn't
She
a
had
Tom
more
King.
person
Yeah,
real quick. She
yeah,
really did have more personality in issue 7. I mean, she
yeah.
acts
She
like,
did. You know, it's kind of funny. You notice how she acted more like Wonder Woman when she was with Superman?
yeah, yeah, of course.
Yeah, there you go. He really brings it out. That's the one issue where I had no problems with it. And I'm like, ironically, I wonder why. So we're talking about Spirit of Truth. And first off, like Britt said, this book is gorgeous.
Yes,
Like,
it is.
oh my, this is Alex Ross at his best. And then so first it starts off, and immediately what I like, an interesting thing about this book, there's no speech bubbles. It's all text on the page. It's like you're reading a novel, but it's got the pictures in there. So it's kind of like a storybook, which works for this so well. And it's just any one of these pages you could hang in a museum.
Right. It is very beautiful. I mean, just the colors of that white and gold, like, to
Mhm.
really emphasize that this is like ancient Greek, um or Greece, the temples and everything like that. This is, on again, we're going back to these stories that really need to be adapted in
Yeah.
animation. You know,
More on that after we talk about the story, because we have a reason. We have there's another reason why we're talking about Spirit of Truth on this.
right.
So continuing on, and so again, she's explaining essentially this is Wonder Woman recounting the origins of the Amazons and her own origin herself. And then we get, which I'm sure inspired that scene from the Snyder cut where Wonder Woman saved those people in a bank. Literally, she stops terrorists from taking over a government building. And I love the facial expressions. Everyone's like genuinely shocked, like, "Oh my gosh, it's Wonder Woman!" Like,
And
wow.
how she comes in, she just like she comes in so gracefully,
Mhm.
but at the same time, you see the bright colors and this tall woman, in these bright colors, basically coming to kick your ass.
Yeah, I know. And it's again, it's so well done, and everything has motion and energy. She fights. I like how it's kind of funny. This entire book, there's barely any like panel breaks. It's just like full on splash pages for
Splash
the most
pages.
part, and but in a way, it's actually it does have panels. It's just they're not broken up into squares and stuff. Like Wonder Woman right here is the panel break. The central figure divides the panels, and I'm like, that is so unique and so well done.
Yeah. I
Like,
I mean,
wow.
yeah, and the fact that you can follow, like, you're not confused, with art today, with some paneling, it's either very boring because especially with the 9 panel grid thing, it's like,
Mhm.
okay, and sometimes they even like use the same exact panel from, you know, repeatedly, and
Mhm.
it's like so boring and stiff.
Lazy.
But this, yeah, but this right here is like every piece is a different, motion. And then, but you can still follow so easily what's going on.
Yeah, exactly. And everything, even though there's no like speech bubbles, you can still follow the dialogue too and follow it logically. And I mean, yeah, there are some panels here. The other thing I love, so she takes off, and I like how she just vanishes into her invisible jet. It's like they're watching her, then all of a sudden, boop, she's gone.
Yeah, the way Alex depicts the invisible jet is just so good. It's like I don't honest I don't like it when you can still see her.
Hmm.
Like, um, the most recent thing, and it's funny that we're criticizing Tom King, but it's kind of like everything is we're comparing and we're seeing, oh, everything is wrong. But with I think it was issue 4, he had the invisible jet and you can still see Diana. I don't like it when you can still see her.
Yeah, because you wouldn't be able to see her because she's in the thing.
Yeah, I would much rather the whole thing be invisible. That's the point. Instead of
Yeah.
just like the jet invisible and you can see her through it. That's just weird.
It looks
Um,
stupid. It looks too campy, and I get what he's going for. It's just the problem with Tom King's Wonder Woman is that he tries to write her like Linda Carter or like Christopher Reeve, and it just comes off as patronizing.
well, yeah, his motivation is uh Linda Carter. I mean, even Linda Carter didn't have this much like she had
Yeah.
personality at
But
least.
yeah, she actually did spoke, and when she spoke, it wasn't like an emotionless automaton. But anyway, continuing on. So then, we basically have Wonder Woman narrating her day. She goes through various things. I like how she stops these criminals from escaping, and they didn't even try to shoot her. They just dropped their guns because they're like, okay, it's no use. She's Wonder Woman. What are we gonna do?
I mean, she stopped the car. It's I love that it's just like the scene, but you can like go ahead and like jump ahead within your mind and okay, this is how this scene played out. And it's basically, you can tell that the car obviously was full speed, and Diana just stopped the car with her foot. And, with the hood damage and everything, and the dudes are like, they're dropping their guns. They are, it seems like they are going forward, or back with that whole thing. And she just seems so intimidating. It's like that is the kind of Wonder Woman that we want. She's very sweet and kind. She's,
Mhm.
as gentle as a butterfly, but that, she can get rough.
It
And that, and
reminds me a lot of that scene, the Snyder cut, when Wonder Woman had that one terrorist wrapped in the lasso, and she goes, "Who are you?" And then he gives the whole like explanation of like who they are, and then Wonder Woman goes, "Boring. Why are you here?" And I just love, because that's essentially what that is. And I just love the attitude Diana has. She has her foot on here, she has her hand up, like, "Okay, explain to me." It's and again, to your point, with Alex Ross, all these images tell their own story. And yeah, essentially these are some images that you can actually hear, and it's so cool. So we have Diana saving, and then you also have her saving saving orangutans from like hunters. So she's doing like various, she's not like always like punching criminals, she's like saving animals, she's saving stuff. So it's showing how varied her day is. And then again, I like this image, the top left, where the dude shoots a laser at her. And actually, I think that's Professor Poison. But anyway, shooting a laser at Wonder Woman. She's blocking it with her bracelets, but because it's like a mirror, the laser's going in all these different directions.
yeah, I I thought that was Catwoman at first, but that is
I
pretty
mean,
neat.
okay, so it's a woman. It doesn't look like Catwoman, though.
No, I think it was the goggles that first kind of,
Mm-hmm.
it just kind of looked like her, but
Mm-hmm.
zooming in, no, it's not her. But that would be pretty neat though. Like,
But I also love Diana's like commentary. She's like, of course, there's the usual cadre of high tech thieves and costume troublemakers. I suppose there's a never ending stream of, like, you can tell she's actually really annoyed. And I love this image of her holding the train up as the like trying to escape.
yeah. And she's also with the monologue. It's basically like she does sound annoyed, but at the same time, it's kind of like it's such a it's what she wants to do, but you can tell that the dream that she had, or the vision that she had before leaving Themyscira. Like, her mission, of course, was she's she's had these stories told to her about man's world, and she, had this very ambitious idea that, okay, I'm going to go out, be an adventurer, change the world and everything like that. But reality pretty much is coming at her, of all these different things that she's doing, that it seems like some things are repetitive, like she's bored of, of the supervillains that, have these high-tech things that
Mm-hmm.
they can't, you know, it's just it's like I said, it's just becoming repetitive, and she wants something more though. It's like, yeah, I can do all these things, but am I just becoming stagnant?
Mm-hmm. Ironically, so basically, she's doing commentary on the DC editorial staff. Who would have known? So then, so she
I
goes
did
back.
not put that together, and that makes so much sense.
I had the minute you said, "Am I becoming stagnant?" I was like, The answer is yes, but that's just easy. So she returns to Themyscira, and again, I like how he basically draws it like ancient Rome and obviously Greece, but it's like it's a cool little merger of the two, and honestly, it kind of looks like I'm watching Gladiator.
I love that she can return home
Yes,
and that
it's not like Rutger where I've never been home.
and you also see the Amazons are just they aren't they are kind of like they are warriors, but at the same time they are peaceful and they are
Mhm.
so cultured and diverse. I love that and it's like it's supposed to be Paradise Island. You
Mhm.
know, that is what the mascara is. So for yeah, New 52 and Azrael, the Amazons they weren't the Paradise Island Amazons.
No, I mean even when the Finches took over Wonder Woman, they had to murder all the men on the island.
Yeah, I mean, what Finch she did show that they had like a market, that they
Mhm.
did have like had some culture within there, but it still was missing that part of it. And I think that if they were to have balanced it out, that I know Azzarello, he wanted some more realistic type
Mhm.
of the Amazons, but I mean, you have to pick and choose the right way of realism. Like,
And you know how they could have done it? They could have had it where Diana finally brings Clark to the island to meet like her mother and all the Amazons. Because luckily, at this point in the new 52, as we learn in, funnily enough, the Deathstroke book, Clark has been to Themyscira before, so the Amazons know who he is. But it's like they start to see him, and maybe they start to soften and like start to embrace life more. I know they should have started off like that, but at least this is a way that we could have used the relationship to like push them more in the to like course correct the Amazons.
yeah, and I think that at the end of Azzarello's his run, that is what well, not with a Superman, but just the general idea was for the Amazons to have redemption and for them to, start opening up a little bit more. And I think with Finch, I believe she did say this in an interview that basically it was editorial.
Mhm.
Like the 180, of um Hippolyta, how she died again. It was like she was alive and then a few issues later she's dead again and turned into clay for Donna to be created.
Really,
It
that's the
was
origin for Donna. Fun fact, according to David Finch, because he told me this himself when I met him, by a super nice guy, pro super wonder, mind you. So so I asked him about like the Wonder Woman costume, the newer the red costume they gave her in the new 52. I was like, so what was behind that? And he goes, it's because DC found the other one problematic, so they wanted me to give her a full head to toe costume, but the fans freaked out, rightly so. So that's why it only showed up for like a couple of issues.
I don't I mean
I don't hate that
the
costume, but it's not Wonder Woman.
DC having it problematic is just so weird because they've been trying to I mean you're missing the point of the character. And this is the problem with DC now is that they're so reactionary to so many like hot takes or whatever online or just anything like I think this is the time that they were bought out or whatever
Mm-hmm.
with the merger of AT&T. I think
Mm-hmm.
that is one of the times. So of course AT&T wants this conservative image. And this is probably why they felt like her original costume was inappropriate or whatever now. And it's kind of like
Mm-hmm.
she's been having the bathing suit costume for
Since
decades.
her
So,
inception.
you know, then you had when she was inducted in the UN for,
Mhm.
I think,
Oh yeah.
feminism. I
They
forgot what she.
they shot they and they said this in the movie. They took her out later because of her costume.
Yeah, which was, I mean, honestly, that was just so embarrassing. And this, how Rebirth and, the whole transition or whatever, how they blame so much on New 52.
Hmm.
But New 52 Wonder Woman, even with the faults, she still spoke to a lot of people and became, more respected. And you had, I guess, better PR outside of comics, of, like the Six Flags promotion and everything like that. And people loved her. And then, of course, more people took her serious with the 17 movie.
Hmm.
But
And then
for
she
it to
became a
be,
joke with 1984.
yeah, but because of women, and it was probably their own insecurities, old
Hmm.
women, they do have insecurities. And that is what Wonder Woman kind of like, again, her purpose is to, no matter how old you are supposed to, have this confidence within yourself, no matter what you wear. That's the point of the bathing suit. It's kind of like, yeah, she can walk around like this and still kick your ass. That is what that is.
Hmm.
Um, so for them to strip her of that, that really, I think that did set the character back a lot, because her whole purpose, it felt like, not only was it was stripped away in reality, that she stood for this for so long within the comic, just that niche
It was never
of.
a problem. She's the most iconic woman in pop culture. And you could have reached out to the youth and get them more interested in what the UN does. But no, but that's just the UN. But anyway, continuing on.
Yeah.
Because trust me, I could go for a while ranting about the UN as the political science major. So then, and then I like how we see Diana at peace, just hanging out with the Amazons, playing with nature. Because again, Diana is a very nature-driven person, as we write with like her in crypto and such. And then we see like the Amazons again. To your point, they're not like always warlike. They're like philosophers, and they're like hanging out. And they kind of played off this in the Wonder Woman movie, where you see like all the different Amazons, like shopkeepers, tutors, and then even Diana is like, "We are the gateway to a better understanding of the world." And I'm like, actually, yeah, this kind, I kind of see that here.
Yeah. And with her being so ingrained with nature,
Mm-hmm.
of course, of course, it's some people that go against, Superman and Wonder Woman being a couple. It was saying, um, I believe even Becky Cloonan said
Mm-hmm.
that in a interview, like, she would want to, be adventurous and clean up Gotham and stuff instead of sitting on a farm. And it was kind of like, no.
First off, DC is
Diana,
not going to allow Gotham to be cleaned up, because then that makes Batman irrelevant.
right. But if you know Diana, she loves nature. She loves that, the agriculture, and, like I said, being ingrained in nature. So being on a farm, yes, that is basically like another way of being, finding a comfort, like she's saying here, being within the mascara, and being with the animals, and, you know, just taking um taking in the beauty of, even, you see Amazons reading and playing music and stuff like that, riding the kangas. That is what Wonder Woman is. Well, Diana, that is who Diana is. She's just an island girl. So the island girl and the farm boy, that meshes so well.
And by the
And
way, You just gave me an idea for a story, so I hope you're happy. Now I have to remember this and make sure I can remember this until we stop recording.
I'm gonna make you forget.
Get prepared for more. I am swimming in points right now, Britt. I am swimming.
Every time I get like 10 points, you end up with like 100.
50. Yeah, I'm like, okay, so because you know what I do? As soon as you send me a good idea, I give you points, and then I immediately come up with another idea. Saying, I can't give her any, I can't give her any hope. But so yeah, more on that after this. So then we see her meet Hippolyta, and again, because Diana's like, because the Amazons are kind of immortal, I like the way that like Hippolyta and Diana don't look like mother-daughter. They look like two sisters.
Yeah, Hippolyta does look a little aged, but she does look like an older sister.
Mm-hmm.
And that is pretty, yeah. I the one thing that I don't really, which Alex did great here, is that he gave her a more brown like hair color
Mm-hmm.
than Diana and Hippolyta looking like twins, like
Mm-hmm.
with the black hair. And that's the one thing that I did appreciate with New 52 is that they made Hippolyta blonde.
Mm-hmm.
And, I don't know, it's just like a more distinctive look for her and for Diana is that especially with going within the clay origin is that Hippolyta crafted her, of course they're gonna have the dark raven, black hair, the blue eyes, or gray, whichever, or even brown. Sometimes Diana's uh, eye color changes a lot.
Yeah.
Um, so that and that really symbolizes how she crafted her into clay and not have a natural birth because of course Diana would end up with blonde hair or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um Even with the new 52 of having the, Zeus. I mean Zeus white hair, but he was kind of like the white hair and dreads, but
Mm-hmm.
he had the I think his hair was brown,
I think so.
younger, so brown-haired Zeus with blonde Hippolyta with Diana having coal black hair.
Right,
It's
can I
so
say I freaking love Zeus with dreads. That was so badass.
that yes, I think he is supposed to be portrayed because in Hitch Rebirth, the same no, it was the timeless arc. And Diana goes back in time and with
Mm-hmm.
the like when Zeus and she met Zeus when he was younger, and he is portrayed as African American. So
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm guessing from uh the artist of New 52, the, Zeus did kind of look a little,
A little bit, because there's the shot of him holding with Diana after she like brought him back when he was a baby. I was like, okay, I kind of see where that's going, and you know
yeah,
what? That it, but still, it just looks so sick with the
yeah,
beard and the dreads and the lightning in the eyes. I'm like, yeah, I want. Can we get one portrayal of Zeus in the movies where it's that?
exactly. I mean, or if he is racially ambiguous. I know Apollo, he had braids, he had
Yeah.
cornrows.
Yeah,
So it
and
was kind of, yeah,
then he had rocks in those cornrows when Clark punched him through a volcano. So I just love that
so
scene so much. And
yeah.
then so continuing on, so Diana returns to man's world. But the other thing that I like about this, going back to this, I like how like Hippolyta kind of like questions Diana of like, aren't you leading them to like a better understanding of like themselves and make them more peaceful? And you can kind of take this as a prequel story to Kingdom Come. Because remember, one of the reasons why they took Diana's royalty away is because they thought she had failed in her mission of promoting peace globally.
When I first saw this, I did think it was a prequel of sorts of Kingdom Come. It's not, but it's like it fits so well.
Mhm.
But
I see. Yeah, I had the same thoughts when I read that Justice League story called Justice, which Alex Ross drew, and a lot of it I was like, is this a prequel to Kingdom Come? It's probably not, but I mean, still, my point is the same plot beats are like kind of there, like Hippolyta questions if Diana is being effective as an ambassador. And speaking of being effective, I love how like Wonder Woman is in like an ambiguous autocratic country that's drawn very much to look like communist China, and she's standing in the middle of this dress draped in the American flag and in her bikini, and I'm like, that takes some guts.
And that's the thing. Diana does not care. She
Mhm.
is who she is. You can take it or leave it. And that is the thing, that she's trying to make a difference in a sense of I am who I am, you be who you are, and we can, come to some type of agreement.
Yeah. And then she looks out the window and then she sees the regime is sending in tanks to like break up a protest. This girl is about to be run over by a tank, and then Diana shows up and just lifts up the tank. And I'm like, see, the reason why I love Alex Ross's artwork, and I've long said that DC characters are like gods amongst men. And this image right here just fully solidifies that, because you see her, she's like this Titanic character, and the way he kind of draws her, the way that the perspective of this shot, it makes her look like she is a giant compared to this person here.
Right. They have and this shot really also exemplifies what Marston kind of how he wanted Diana to be depicted. She is, she has this strong, um, she is strong physically, um, but her beauty is like unmatched though. She is the embodiment of femininity, but at the same time, she has the strength and she is fighting as they think men are supposed to only do, and that is why she is or was perceived as the natural counterpart to Superman is this muscular, he's supposed to be like this Casanova type. um you know some people do act like Superman's supposed to be like Fabio or something like that, but
I think that's more of either Hal Jordan or Bruce Wayne a little bit.
well, some people, close fans, they think that Superman is supposed to be like this a romance character. He is, but not really. It's supposed to be a balance. He isn't inherently not at all a romance character, and I don't know where that came from, but I really don't think that that was within the initial thoughts. I think it was
Well,
being
no,
of an action
because
hero.
remember, Siegel and Schuster intended for Superman to not be with anyone.
Yeah, so I don't understand how he can be a romance character. I
Well,
really think
well,
that's
Brit,
a 90s thing.
as you know, real DC fans are known for revisionism.
That's true. That's
So,
totally true.
trust me, as a Snyder fan, I also encounter that a lot. So, continuing on, it's just this is going to be like last week when we talked about Brian Hitch, because a lot of this is just me marveling, pun intended, at it's just the way she like carelessly throws away the tank. And then the other thing I like is how she just saved this woman, and the woman, and she goes, "Don't worry, I'm a friend. I'm a woman just like you." And then the person goes, "You're not a woman like me because you can like lift a tank." So it's kind of like people are also afraid of her because of what she can do. And this kind of, it's kind of funny thinking about this as someone that's a Super Wonder shipper. This is kind of similar to like how she felt in Justice League 12 or like the Throne of Atlantis movie when they're like, we're not like gods, we're not like them. So in other words, we don't belong with the gods, but we don't belong with man, because they're like, no, you're not like us, and the gods say you're not like us. So it's like this further like solidifies her as she doesn't know where she belongs, kind of.
Yeah, and that is the thing, is that that reality has to hit Clark and Diana more so. Instead of being complacent and basically like, okay, so yeah, we're not like them, but I have to do everything I can to fit in and be like them. And that is like still not the point of the character. And that is how Superman has fallen so,
Mm-hmm.
so far, because he's human, he's
Human,
just as,
as we saw in Charles Duel, he's human, but he's also alien.
yeah. I believe that when you say human, it is more so of like, they aren't robotic, they have
Mm-hmm.
feelings, they just their ability to care, you know they they do have these emotions, and it's on a grander scale. But the human part that they think of, that you do have to look like an American, and what defines an American is,
Mm-hmm.
um basically a regular, Caucasian American. That is what human, in the sense of Superman fans, what I've come across is very much their definition of what a
Mm-hmm.
human is. And they really are, if you are a person of color, they will demonize you. And so it's like, and as a person of color, you can't hide your
Mm-hmm.
skin color, so for Superman to basically like be this have this image of passing, and it's kind of like, no, you can't be different, or that's wrong. And for Byrne to even uh to imply that being acknowledging your roots, and acknowledging that you are different, acknowledging, you know just your heritage is a bad thing. It's kind of like, first of all, your self-insertion, I don't care what trauma you went through,
That's
and
not
if
the
you,
character. It's almost
yeah.
like it's being written by Tom King.
Yeah, we're just really, it's the Tom
I'm
King
sorry. I know
comparison
I'm harping
bashing
on Tom
thing.
King a lot, but that's because he did an egregious thing in Wonder Woman. By the way, back to something more positive. I just realized another great thing about this art. You know why it's hard? It's easy to follow. Notice how Wonder Woman and the woman she just saved are the only ones that actually are colored.
Yeah, it's kind of like an old cartoon where
Yeah.
like what to focus on,
Mm-hmm.
and everything else in the background, even though the background is so detailed
Mm-hmm.
and you can see it, and you can appreciate it, but it's like, no, your sole focus right now is Wonder Woman, and this moment.
It's kind of like that Wonder Woman, like I think it's called like Silver and Gold or something like that, where it's like part of it is like colored a certain way. It's kind of like that.
Black and gold.
Black and gold. Okay. And I appreciate that. So then she's meeting with a bunch of these world leaders. And again, they kind of look down on her, A, because she's a woman, and because of because of the way she's dressed. And I definitely, again, I like how, like, that, to your point, the way Wonder Woman is, she doesn't care about like what people think of her. She's just here to help. And that like really, really, really is hammered in this point. And again, this is why I love Paul Dini. And I like he's speaking of the invisible jet, no one sees her, and then she's just floating there, and there's the door to the invisible jet.
Yeah, so
And
you
you
can
can even
really
kind of see the outline of it too here.
see, that is perfect, that you can see, it's so natural. Like, anyone else, like I said, I can't stand the fact that it's an invisible jet, but you can still see Diana. That's just no. Alex gave like you said, it's a visual that even though it's invisible, you still have the outline. And even the outline isn't like a black,
No,
outline. It's just the
you still have
way
to see
he
it. It's difficult to see it, and it could be just me extrapolating where it is based on the door, but still, it's like I can kind of see the wing there.
no, is very much the way it's painted is very much giving the outline and the purpose of how the kind of the sky is. Yeah, you can definitely probably envision or whatever the how the uh plane is.
Your
Jet.
boy got another idea, by the way. More on that
Oh
later.
my goodness.
This is a very productive night for me. So far I have 3. Continuing on. So we have, and again, I like how you see Wonder Woman and they start throwing rocks at her, and I like how she's blocking with the bracelets like they're bullets, but she's realizing that she can't go around a lot of places like as herself. She has to like adopt kind of like a secret identity kind of thing. And who does she go to talk about the secret identity? Her friend slash secret love, Clark Kent, on top of the Daily Planet. And this is like a big F you to Lois because, see, I can meet him on the Daily Planet too. And I just love the way the rain moves. Look at this. And again, outline of the jet because the rain is still hitting the jet.
Yes. That is such the details, the smallest ones make such a big
And
impact.
this
But
is so cool. Look at this. So the rain is going from right to left, but when you see Clark's face, because the image is mirrored because you're facing him now, it's going left to right. It's, it's normally I wouldn't marvel at that, but with today's like very detailed, disoriented artists, this just it's the icing on the cake.
yeah. But I want to go back and it also with Diana with rocks thrown at her, it also give her the realization, which I think this goes back to the issue where in New 52 when Clark and Diana disguise themselves to help in a foreign country,
Which that was a badass
and
moment.
it was, but it also brings up the issue, which again, um, sorry, Tom King, you're another batch,
Ah,
but it's the fact of you're having these conflicts with the government and these different countries. And again, Superman and Wonder Woman are supposed to be the political characters that go against this certain things, especially they need to be global heroes. Superman doesn't need to be stuck in Metropolis and just the US. Wonder Woman, I, they have stripped her of her being an ambassador. So that is the one thing that New 52, I would say that Charles Soule probably was going to put that back in.
I
Because
think he
even
was
if,
building to it because they had just brought because I think because remember I think that if he was writing the book when they brought back the Amazons, I feel like eventually he was like he and the Finches were building to that.
yeah, so I wouldn't really count New 52 because, well, he did because he said that she traveled. Um,
Mhm.
she was something like that. So, you know, yeah, so he was trying to build onto something like that. But within Rebirth, it's funny how they, say, "Oh, we got the characters back to being classic, whatever." But nowhere in here has she, became an ambassador or anything like that. She
Yeah, where's the
doesn't do any
embassy?
kind of, yeah, she doesn't do any kind of foreign relations or anything like that. She's been in a psych ward, but
Yeah, that's
that's it.
back. So you're telling me that's back to the classic characters? Wow. And
Yes,
she's never been back to Themyscira, even though
yeah,
multiple people have been to Themyscira, including Slade Wilson.
yeah.
How
And
how do you I'm sorry. I know I have to. I know I harp on that one retcon every week, but this is
it's
so
ridiculous.
stupid.
Yeah. And even with Tom King, the way he had the Amazons when she brought the kid who had the cancer to the mascara, the Amazons are not going to turn away a child that is ill.
They were going
That
to
is just
kill him. I'm
that,
reading that and I'm
even
like,
if it was a
no,
boy,
no.
even with being a boy, they are not going to do that. That is just so uncharacteristic of, they might not, you know, still going within the new 52 baby killer Amazons or uh
Mhm.
trading Amazons or whatever. But again, if you're going back to the classics, quote unquote, what's, deemed as classic, then the Amazons would have welcomed him. Um, so what with Tom King's whole story, and it's basically seemed like he's either is decompressed or he's forgotten about the Amazons that he has imprisoned or has killed and everything like that. So his whole government, you know, Diana and the Amazons versus the government is just such a dragged out story that honestly, it was such a missed opportunity in issue 7 when Superman says that he wants to help. He is the one to help. It's not the
They
heavy-handed,
listened to
ham-fisted,
him.
yeah, and it's not the ham-fisted, that American way thing that has, like, the meaning of it has changed in a sense. It's more so like, you trust us as heroes, as American heroes, you know, to protect this world, to protect, um, everything. But yet
Yeah,
you go against one of the Justice League members or the hero's family or, her home. You want to kill and destroy her people. That is, you know, what is that?
yeah.
That would have been a much better story, and especially an even bigger crossover between and acknowledging that the mortal world will always have this underlying, like, mistrust or, not trusting metahumans. And the fact of Wonder Woman is so outspoken about her culture and it scares people. And that is something that should have been actually, shown in the comic instead of what Tom King is doing, that I'm just gonna kill Amazons and then contrive, have these contrivances of, well, how come the Justice League isn't helping or they don't care? Well, Superman asked for her help and she said no. That's it's weird. Um, even the women of the Justice League is like, where are they? They could help too. Um,
Yeah,
or
no one helps, and that's the real stupid part about it. No one that would be able to help helps, and it's really annoying. But anyway, continuing on with this, because let's try and have a peaceful day without Tom King. So so she meets Clark, and again, the win is awesome. They meet at a diner, and then they have a conversation about, and it's similar to the conversation that they had in the new 52 on their date, when he was explaining to her how, like, the secret identities work, and like, everyone sees us as these titanic gods. They really don't think that we're people ultimately.
yeah, and it's what was really cute was that Clark says that, Diana is perfect. And she says, and she's questioning it. She's like, "You think I'm perfect?" And she's like, "I'm not." And the one thing that I don't exactly agree with was how Clark described, again, how he goes about, you know, with mortals of it's still kind of implying the fitting in part, but he is the one that understands and can give her the perspective that she needs though. And the fact that it is, stated here that he is her oldest, dearest friend, the one that she trusts the most. And the fact that, she can be open and vulnerable with him and, understanding still where she's coming from. But it also gives that, it, again, that dynamic that the new 52 try to portray is that Clark, he still, even though he understands and accepts that he is an alien, from another planet, and he lived a life, within the mortal world, growing up in Smallville. So he can give Diana, like I said, that perspective of her being an adult woman and coming into, the mortal world, and just to bring those perspectives together.
By the
And
way,
that's,
I got
mhm.
idea number 4.
Oh my God.
Yeah, this is
Maybe
me
this was,
like this is me like spreading my wings in an intimidation display right about now.
maybe we shouldn't have done this story.
There's so many ideas I'm getting from this. I'm like, wow, I should have read the story earlier.
That's okay because I
Oh,
still have an album.
I'm sure you'll catch up when like another issue of a story you're writing comes out. Trust me.
Oh yeah, definitely. And also, like I said, I still have the same album on repeat, and yeah, it's still
Oh
going.
yeah, here we go. So then, so after that, now Diana decides that she's gonna go low key instead of just showing up in the costume. She's basically like sunglasses and like a hood, and she's like moving very inconspicuously. Which Diana, being taller than the average woman, I guess it kind of lines up, but it's kind of interesting. And then I love how like she's still able to like fight, and because that one dude tries to grab a gun, then she just punches him. I just love that.
Yeah, it is kind of weird that Diana's like, well, I think she is 6, either a solid 6 or like 6'2". So you and then plus if she has on heels, so that makes her even
Yeah,
taller.
I was about to say because she's in heels in this too. So I'm like, by the way, you know what? It's kind of interesting. I've heard from girls that like walking on heels is very hard. I guess it's easy for Diana because she just uses her flight powers kind of to balance.
Well, honestly, sometimes it look like even if she doesn't have the heel on her boot, it like they still has her like standing on her tiptoes, which is, like a ballerina or something. So yeah, walking in heels is very hard. But um yeah,
I don't
I
know
don't
how you
know.
girls do it.
It's a girl thing. It's very much, can't really explain it. It's
Mhm.
just having a different type of natural balance, I guess.
That's the only way to scientifically explain it. And I'm just like, uh, I'm still surprised as men we can like endure the itchy face that comes from growing a beard. Because trust me, it takes a lot to get to this awesomeness. So, because trust me, growing a beard sucks. So then she shows up at this environmental. So essentially, Wonder Woman's on like a world tour, traveling the world and saving the world from the shadows. And this is what 1984 should have been. Because when you look
Right.
at the plot of 1984, when she's saving the world from the shadows, I'm like, you could have done this. You didn't even have to have it take place in the modern day. A lot of these issues were still happening back then, but you could have done this. And then you waste
Exactly.
Maxwell Lord and Cheetah. You can even use Cheetah in this.
Even, I mean, trying to have Maxwell Lord and you don't have like even though we do not like that story, but
You don't
still,
snap his neck or kill him. It's like, the only reason why they used Maxwell Lord is for the Donald Trump joke. So I'm like, oh God, Hollywood. But it's like because let me put it this way: as much as I like Pablo Pascal, that ain't Maxwell Lord. That is not Maxwell Lord by a long shot.
I don't know what. Honestly, he seemed more like it's funny. I used his name in the Martin Wellman.
Yeah, yeah. See, no, that's who he was. It's kind of funny now that you mention that, and I'm like, oh, wait a second. Yes, he does sound like Martin Wellman, but I'm like, Maxwell Lord is not the life is good, but it can be better. I'm like, no.
Yeah, they definitely. I know that Martin, he isn't a well-known character, but he is. I mean, I used him in the story, so
That's why I
he was
liked your
definitely.
stories because you use a lot of obscure characters as well. So I was like, oh God, she knows what she's talking about.
Yeah, so it's like that is basically who I pictured Pascal was
Mhm.
because Max Lord, no, no. But again, the only reason why he was used was because the sacrifice story in knowing it, and that was the issue with adaptations, especially in the DCEU, is that they use like these well-known pieces, kind of like even in Wonder Woman 17 when she had the ice cream, but it was they wanted that certain scene in, but it was weird and out of place because it was cold, I believe, in that scene. So it's kind of like,
Mhm.
why are you having ice cream when it's like snowing or cold outside? It doesn't
It's
make any sense.
because also, by the way, everyone loves that moment. New 52.
Yeah, it. But Diana's love for ice cream came from the New 52.
Yeah,
So
thank you. And I'm like, I will accept my thanks as a new 52 fan now because I hate when people think like nothing of value came from the new 52. I mean, Court of Owls and Superman Wonder Woman alone is enough to justify that entire initiative's existence.
yeah, and a lot of they want to use the aesthetics of New 52, but don't acknowledge New 52 as what it was.
I know. You even had Jessica Cruz, who was arguably one of the best newer characters DC has ever come up with. More on her later. So, I like how Diana breaks all the deforcing equipment just by like taking out its engine, and there's the engineer going, "What the hell happened here?" And then Diana just leaves, and then she goes to like where the land where like victims of landmines are. And I like how Diana goes. She goes, obviously, I could like detonate these things as Wonder Woman easily, but I'm doing this the way Immortal does because I want to know I want to get as close to the feeling of fear that they feel when doing this. I want to be in more or less the same danger that they're in.
And I mean, I guess that works. That you again, it's some things that you don't have to really just like stoop down a level because these characters they are like on a grand scale. So it's not like a mortal can do what a hero does to understand, you know, because of course this is impossible. But for the heroes to yeah, step down a little bit to feel like I have to do this just to be accepted. I don't agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
Because what she feels is already on a grander scale. Because not
True.
only is she's not immortal, but she's not, well, technically accepted into um the world of gods. And that being that it's the world of gods puts it on a grander scale. She is of a different country, she's a foreigner. But the grander scale part is that she's from an island that is mythic. Um, and she has, but she still has the thing of being from a foreign island. She, basically her native language, you know, English is not her first language. So it's a language barrier. Um, they're trying to, you know, figure out everyday living, you know, that sort of thing she still does. Again, it's just on a grander scale. So
Hmm.
I don't really agree that just because they're heroes, that it doesn't mean that they don't that, like she said, just because you think I'm perfect doesn't mean I am perfect, because I do have certain things that, these ups and downs, just like any person would. Um, and that's true. In reality, we have our ups and downs every day, whether it is a celebrity, you know, um, yeah, basically comparing a celebrity to a non-celebrity.
Hmm.
Celebrities, you think that they have these big houses and, and just living it up. But after a while, what do we hear in reports? That they have to file bankruptcy, that they are losing their billion, $1 million mansions, that they owe taxes, that, even as artists, movie actors and actresses, they are still treated unfairly, by their employers, you know, things like that. They're just on a grander scale. So, you know, to think that you have to go down a level just to understand, no, that's not true.
Hmm. True that. And so then he even goes to the Middle East, and I like this because this is obviously an homage to Linda Carter when she goes, "I now take on the role of a soldier in military intelligence." Because wasn't that what like Diana Prince was? I mean, I think at first she was like a military nurse, but then she was like
Yes,
in military intelligence, and I think it was the Linda Carter show.
yes, it was.
Mhm. So I'm like, okay, I see what you're doing here, Dini and Ross, and you know what? I like it. Plus, it's kind of funny. Th- I really like how like true to life these depictions of the military are. It's like that Humvee looks like a Humvee. That Pavlo looks like a Pavlo. So as the military nerd in me too, I'm like, okay, this is great. And then I like this. She intentionally gets captured by terrorists. And this is kind of like that scene in the New 52. And they kick her into the pen. She comes out. So they're transferring her to where like they're gonna be sold. The guy tries to slap Diana, and then she just catches his hand. And it's like, nope. She takes off the robe, goes into action, and kicks ass. And then we get this image. I because the way this flows, the explosion happens, and then she just walks out of the fire.
Yeah,
Like, this is so badass.
it is. And then the guy's expression.
The guy's like, oh no. And the words to it goes, a cry of conscience that will not be silenced or shadowed down by lies. I am a spirit of truth. And I'm like, yes. Yes, this is just so cool. The guys are like, oh no, what have
It's
we done? It's like that Morgan Freeman line. It was at that moment he knew he effed up.
right.
Like,
So
wow.
I mean, this scene alone, I think, you know, even if New 52 had adapted this and you had Rosaria, as Diana's voice, um, or someone, to really capture the way Diana would speak, a little bit older, um, to match Alex Ross' depiction of
Mhm.
her.
Yeah.
And
It's
honestly,
Mhm.
the way this is, there's no way it would have to be high budget animation for this
Or
to
live
be,
action in order to do it right. Directed by Zack
yeah,
Snyder. And that's my obligatory Zack Snyder reference. Continuing on. And yeah, she saves all the hostages. And then again, she gets back in the invisible jet. It's just I like how she's even standing on the wing basically of the invisible jet. So it looks like she's just like standing on thin air. Again, I love how we marvel in this entire episode at a simple thing as the invisible jet, but Ross just draws it so well.
yeah, it's like I don't really care about the invisible jet, but here I really do because just the way is the depiction of it, just like you said, as simple as the door, but you can't see anything else. It's so like cool to see.
What does it say about Alex Ross's artistic skills that he can draw something invisible so incredibly well? Somehow he is drawing an invisible jet really well. What? What? And then I love she goes back to Themyscira and she's just right back to being at peace because now she's figured out like what she's supposed to be, her role in the world. And here's the contradiction. Here's the part I was referring to. So I'm gonna read this actually. So Diana says, I now realize I am a warrior as much as I am a woman of peace. I can never place one half of my soul above the other, though now I feel they coexist more harmoniously than ever before. Heroine, demigoddess, soldier, peacemaker. I am these things in part, none of them completely. In truth, I am most like the people of man's world, a being of contrasts and contradictions. And now that I have spent some time among them, I realize that I can continue to do the most good. That is just so good. I love that.
And exactly, it's just trying to find the balance.
Mhm.
There's no choosing one over the other. There's no going too much extreme. It's just trying to find the balance. And the thing is with Tom King and anyone else of modern writing cannot find the balance of either, uh especially Diana. I mean, they just, if they can't write her and understand her, you know, it's already that she's a woman, so with having, and honestly, DC has female writers, and some of the female writers clearly don't understand Wonder Woman or become like self-insertion, or it's just like really, really bland as a female writer. So it can go both genders. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, and it's just awesome. And then of course she calls Clark to basically tell him that he was right and that she's trying. I think that this is kind of like Diana realizing that again she's trying to find the balance between even being a superhero and just being a woman. And this actually works really well when paired with Superman, Wonder Woman, because that whole series, particularly Volume 1, is about them trying to find the balance in their lives.
And also loving that they basically plan to have dinner
Mm-hmm.
at the
Yeah,
end.
yeah. You notice no mention of Lois. Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, even if it is, it's the fact that Diana and Clark are able to have their friendship with an underlying like tension, you know, um there, and yeah, there's no reference of Lois at all, and it shouldn't be. That was again a sorry, King. I guess this
You're
is just
mentioning Tom
comparison.
King too much.
But with his Wonder Woman 7, I guess because that's most recent story that's kind of like trying to um it's comparing that this story shows Diana's conflictions and how in her hardships. And Wonder Woman 7 recently was supposed to be about Clark and Diana sharing their hardships together. And, you know, and how within what 20 within 20 years, apart or so, of how the writing is so different, and how the emotion is kind of empty,
Mhm.
and it's not really bringing you into the story as it should. And how this story shows that Diana actually sought out Clark and for his opinion, for his, perspective, and to really open up to him. But then with King, Diana, she is far more, or even just Rebirth in general, really within Diana, you really haven't gotten that vulnerability with her. I think that they tried with Steve, I think Wilson's run and someone else, but it's kind of like a we'll say it, but we don't show it.
That's
Um,
the way DAC goes through life. We're gonna do things off screen and then tell you later that it happened.
exactly. So that pretty much was it. But with issue 7, it was like we see Clark trying to help her, and she says she was a little bit condescending, just a little bit, which she said, my Clark, my friend, or my friend, my Clark. This isn't. You are so right. You are right all the time, but this is where you're wrong, or something like that. She said, and how
It's
this
just
is just an
something.
Amazon. This is just an Amazon thing, and it's kind of like, no, Diana wouldn't exactly just say that, you know. So it's very much just closed off, and that's something that Diana just isn't. I
Yeah.
don't like. I really just don't like, especially with a topic like this, is you're shutting off so much, story potential to actually, bring in the wider. He's he claims that it is like going to impact the wider DCU.
Really? I haven't, because here's the problem with Tom King's Wonder Woman, in addition to the crappy material, is the story is taking too long to get to the point. I mean, we issue 8 is when the first time we see it even advances the plot of the Sovereign. For like 7 issues, it's just everyone just hanging out. And I'm like, if this is that big of a threat, this is my problem with Avatar: The Last Airbender season 3. Everyone just hangs out when they're on a timetable. And I'm like, get to the freaking point with the story.
Right. So that is, I guess, really the comparison of that this story is just a one shot, and this is, of course, this within a series of other one shots, and
Kind of.
um it really just gets to the core of the character, her conflictions, her hardships, and shows, the one person that she um trusts and understands. Not even just the one person, she also has her mother too, to
Oh yeah,
talk to.
well, no, actually, her mom's dead. Remember,
Well, yeah, well,
they replaced her with Nubia because that was the Trial of the Amazons event.
yeah, they replaced her with Nubia to make Nubia the queen, but even Nubia as the queen, which is a total different
It's
topic, but
boring.
they haven't, I mean, it's boring because they haven't done anything with it. I mean, I don't know.
Did you see that one book called Nubia and the Justice League where they put her on there? And it's everyone just worshiping Nubia to the point where Black Canary does this and goes, "Yes, Queen."
I did see that.
That was a book that nearly gave me a burst blood vessel in my brain because I was like, what the hell? What am I reading? Is this really a DC comic right now?
And like I said, it's a lot of showing, it's a lot of telling and, using characters as
I'm pretty sure.
mouthpieces.
Yeah, exactly. Because I'm pretty sure Black Canary would never say yes, Queen. I'm pretty sure no one says that anymore. But anyway,
I mean, they do, but not in that corny sense.
yes. So continuing on. So Britt and I had another reason for talking about Spirit Truth. So first off, we have a little background. Like we talked about in the beginning, these are all the graphic novels that are part of this like series. It's like it's a loose series. It's not like because I don't think each of these tell one story, do they?
Yeah, they are one. It's basically just to show the main Justice League, or well, the four that was at the time, the four popular ones. They're basically their own inner conflict and how they impact the world, or
Mhm.
how the world impacts them.
Yeah.
And the thing about it though is that the Spirit of Truth, of course, that one, Spirit of Truth and um War on Crime was the ones that mostly stood out. I, well, there is one particular scene in the Batman one where it's a kid and he has a gun.
Okay, I remember that.
Yeah. So that scene alone pretty much stands out, but nothing else within the story does. Then with the Superman one, it's kind of I well, one of the reviews that when it's describing it, it's kind of like it felt very dry. Like
Mhm.
with Superman, it's like again trying to you're walking a fine line of making him out to be like a messiah or something.
Mhm.
So he has conflictions, and and you see Superman being Superman, and but at the same time, it doesn't exactly just speak to you in a
Mhm.
sense. And
Yeah.
it
Well, and that's partly why like Superman has had a relatability problem. In fact, let me ask you this, Britt, because we talked about this for some reason, as we normally do on like any stream comics league does. We don't talk about Zack Snyder and Superman, but what my friend Nick, who's a massive friend of Christopher Reeve's Superman, he said Superman was not a character in terms of movies until Zack Snyder, because really, when you look at those movies, he's more of a plot device instead of a character.
which is true because
Mhm.
it's kind of like, well, I would say the first Reeve movie, he he was a character somewhat.
Mhm.
Um, but after a while though, when you go for trying to be, like I said, you walk a fine line of Superman being like a messiah, and like even sort of with um DCEU, after Man of Steel, it was kind of like he was turning into a plot device more so for like a Batman stepping stone
Mhm.
in a sense. Um, and it's kind of like they don't know what to do with Superman after a while. It's
Mhm.
like he has to be either the jobber, or he has to turn evil,
Mhm.
or he has to like they don't want to have him too much in a conflict. And it's the same way of like the like what Gunn is doing. I think that he is like trying to just like basically please Twitter. And
Which DC Rebirth proved that's a fantastic business decision.
right. And it's kind of like you're just very much surface level with Superman. It's like you can't really just deep dive into any type of controversial topic with him. You can't, like, even if he does show the red angry eyes, they think he's turning evil, you know?
Which,
Even
yeah,
if
that's not
he,
what he does. It's because also you also have like here's like Homelander and Omni Man who do that, and they're obviously evil Supermen. So
yeah, it's like you have to be really, even if he does show some type of um sadness or anger or something like that, it's like he has to quickly, get over that. And he
mhm.
has to be smiling all the time. He has to be, kind of like how the story is going is that his main villain is Lex Luthor. That even though Twitter fans, say, well, he doesn't solve problems just with his fist. He's a journalist and an investigative reporter. And it's kind of like, no, no one cares about that unless he was actually, again, doing controversial topics. If you were
Mhm.
actually,
Like
doing something like that.
investigating government corruption. See, that's a Clark Kent story. That'd be really cool. But so again, as we brought up Spirit of Truth. Now, the thing about this, one of the reasons why we wanted to cover this book, beyond the fact that it's gorgeous, is we wanted to revamp the DCEU Wonder Woman and bring in Super Wonder into the DCEU a little better. So we're going to go through each appearance of Wonder Woman in the EU and then talk about if we would change them, what we would modify. So first, we're going to go to Wonder Woman 2017, which largely we keep the same because that movie is freaking awesome.
Yeah. Wonder so I still wouldn't have her all the way in, you know, um 100 years back.
Yeah,
That just seems like
true.
overkill, for yes, she's immortal. Yes, I understand that. But I like when Diana is present day. Like,
Hmm.
because you first of all, you just screw over her entire um supporting cast if you
Hmm.
if you have them
Yeah.
that old. Um and it's already the fact that her supporting cast is very limited too. So, and again, and also it's the fact of her supporting cast is just normal people. So,
Yeah, that's why Steve doesn't work. Here's an idea how to change up the how she gets off the island. What if she's like exploring that mascara and there's like a cave that she's forbidden to go into. Of course, being a rebellious person, she goes into it and then it leads to a portal which teleports her into man's world.
yeah, if you didn't want Steve in the movie at all, I would say that Diana
Which
would
no
end
one
up.
does.
I would say that that is, yeah, that would be something interesting. Or it's just the fact that she, somehow just gets off the island. She
Mhm,
convinces Hala to let her off the island.
mhm.
Something like that if you don't want Steve involved.
Or
Um,
like do what they kind of did with the Grant Morrison Earth One Wonder Woman, where they have this mirror that basically shows them what man's world is like, and Diana is looking at it, and then she sees like how messed up the world is, and then she decides we basically go with it's our sacred duty to defend the world. I need to go and help man's world.
yeah, something like that. I mean, Perez, he did right by having, Steve. If still, I would say he's important in a sense of just he is a plot device,
Hmm.
but he doesn't have to be a love interest. He can be old as dirt, um, and as the older brother. I mean, George Perez, he said that was their relationship as Steve was like a father figure, older brother to Diana, and he called her little sister. That's
Which
pretty much
again, and I'm gonna bring up the Tom King again. That makes his run all the more interesting when you consider he says his main inspiration was the George Perez run. And I'm like, then why is she with Trevor?
Yeah, it's a lot of cherry picking that they say one thing and it's the total opposite. So, also when she is telling her story, if she is to be this old,
Here's how you could do this. The first scene of the movie is like her having lunch with someone. We don't see who it is yet. She's like telling them her story, and the whole movie is her recounting her story. At the end, you reveal who that person is, and it's Clark.
which I believe that was a scene from a Wonder Woman pilot. It wasn't the 2011 one. It was another show.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or maybe it was, yeah, I think it was an actual show. I don't think it was just like a fan made thing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it was Diana and the mysterious person, of course, we know is Clark. But he was interviewing her and she was telling um I guess they were for she was the ambassador. So I guess he was interviewing her for that for the UN. But yeah, if she is to have a public identity, which I think for
Ooh.
live action, she should have a public identity. And yes, Clark interviews her
So
and she
this is
tells,
before they know he's Superman and she's Wonder Woman, and this is like he's just interviewing her for the planet, and she well actually know that then how she have the Wonder Woman, how she telling Wonder Woman's story. Um, she can kind of allude to it briefly in the interview, like say, I went through some stuff and I left my homeland because I wanted to see the world. So you can kind of have her allude that, like, yeah, you can kind of have her allude to being Wonder Woman, but not tell him she's Wonder Woman.
yeah. I mean, he knows as
Yeah, I'm sure he knows.
yeah, I think what it would be to me is that she is a public hero. Like for some reason I just the secret identity is okay for a while, for a little while, but then after a while, yes, they need to have a public identity. I just don't I, with Clark, even with Clark's identity, yeah, I would have it public, especially if the Kents, pass on and like within the New 52, the Kents were passed on and he
And there was
only
consequences, unlike when Bendis wrote it.
the consequences, I think that yes, the world will, have this whole discourse or whatever, and but and yeah, Smallville will get attacked and stuff,
Or
but
like the Daily Planet will get bombed. I'm surprised that didn't happen. Me, I'm more in line with him keeping the secret identity, but if you take it away, you got to show me consequence. Like Lois should have been like should have an attempted assassination on her life at that point.
she should be fired too for conflict of interest and
Oh
being
yeah, that's true.
unethical.
But you know how DC always thinks that like she's the greatest journalist ever.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so I mean, either way with the Clark identity, Diana, I'm more in line with having a public identity because even that's roughly what she had when she was the ambassador in the comics, right?
Right. So so that will be the interview is that she's came
Yeah, there
out,
you go.
knowing that she is Wonder Woman, Diana Prince. She can still be a curator.
Mhm.
I kind of like that job
Because
for her.
it works particularly in in the movie version of Wonder Woman that's very old because she's encountered all these artifacts and stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Um, so yeah, within this interview, actually for the Daily Planet, an exclusive. She is telling her story. And I think that is much better than what they depicted as, and especially again, you are still having the focus story on Steve and
Mm-hmm.
his
Yeah.
watch or whatever. I just no. Make it about Diana and her, who she is, her purpose, and why she is the public hero she is.
Mm-hmm. Now let me ask you this, Britt. How would we do Batman versus Superman: Dawn of Justice?
Okay, so within the context of Wonder Woman, I guess that they met first in BVS.
Mm-hmm.
So
What
it,
you could do is have it so they meet at that event that Lex Luthor was speaking at, where he's talking about stuff at the Library Metropolis event. But I love when he's talking about the myth of Prometheus, and Diana just rolls her eyes like, you have no idea what the hell you're talking about. That was just so good. And then it's like that's when they first like catch eyes, kind of like Bruce and Diana did in BVS, but they don't actually talk until event right there at the museum, because let's say there's like an exhibition that she curated and he's covering it for the planet, and then they actually like chat and stuff.
yeah, I think that that would be much better than, again, with even Batman. It just seemed like you're trying to
Turn her into
turn,
Selena.
yes, turn her into Selena. With Clark, it makes more sense that he will be interviewing her because, again, we're going for the public hero, that, and she's not only an ambassador, but she's also a curator. So it's like there's an interesting story, and
Mm-hmm.
Clark is the one that is telling it. And it's basically like, um well, in Sensation Comics, it was an issue where Clark followed Diana. It
Mm-hmm.
was Wonder Woman 170 with
I think I
Lois.
remember that
Uh,
one. Is that the one where she like officiates a gay wedding?
yeah.
Okay, I
So
I, I know what you're talking about.
so yeah, if you know what I'm talking about. So it's basically that too. It's Clark following, quote unquote, following her and telling
Mm-hmm.
her story,
Well,
getting. Mhm.
here's some other dialogue you can have for that. So when they're talking at the thing, he asked her, "So you're an ambassador, but what inspired this curating thing?" And this is her basic like hinting that she knows who he is too. Where she goes, "I've always had a fascination with mysterious and foreign cultures."
I love
That's
that.
kind of the SuperWonder version of "I don't think you've ever known a woman like me."
And
Which was a
honestly, that
fantastic line. Let me put it to you that way. I just wish it was more towards Superman, but there you go. I basically super wondered it.
and honestly, that is a much better line because it, again, the Batman Bruce Wayne thing is the playboy, and
Mhm,
it's like it depicted her as just this, basically like a Bond girl or whatever,
mhm.
in a sense of she's just like a notch, and trying to be like this sexy, mysterious Selena Kyle wannabe, and that's just not her. And so again, veering it towards just the fact of who she is, not so much as, have like this um just Bruce Wayne type playboy, oh, should I have a one night stand type thing. It's more so of her, of her actual work
And
within the
then
world.
when you get to like the final battle against Doomsday, because if you notice, if you pay attention to it, they kind of hinted about how like Diana and Clark have this like innate, even though they just met, like ability to fight together. Because it's like when Diana knocks Doomsday into the air, Clark comes down and like knocks him into the ground. So they're already like tag teaming. So you would have more of that, and maybe a little flirting when they're in battle, because I think that would be actually really, really cool. You can even you can replace the scenes of Clark like Googling, investigating Bruce. He's actually investigating Diana, because he's like, there's something about her that, and even Lois makes fun of him. He's like, oh, you're researching your crush.
Or she gets a little jealous and is like, why are you researching her?
Oh wait, she gets jealous. Kat goes, oh, you're in. Oh, looks like Clarky has a little crush.
Yeah, that honestly, that is what was missing, was Kat. She could very much be the comedic relief.
Mm-hmm. Yep, which there you go. So you have that, and then they fight, and then obviously they form the Justice League. Now, would we keep Clark dying at the end?
No, because it was rushed.
Yeah, me too, because as much as I adore BVS, it was a bit much to combine DKR with DOS. So I'm like, you know what? Don't kill him. You can have him get injured, but don't kill him.
Yeah, he could get badly injured, like to the point where maybe he's like in
Traction, and she
well,
has to nurse him back to health.
yeah, like an IC, like the ICU or something like that.
At the Hall of Justice, and Wonder Woman is like his bedside nurse, and he goes, "Man, you have fantastic bedside manners, Diana."
Yeah, it's a lot of fill in the blanks that they need, and probably like one more movie after this to really, you know, give that.
Speaking of one more movie, as a matter of fact, Justice League. And yes, I put the Zack Snyder's version in front of it because I refuse to acknowledge the existence of that crime against comic book cinema. So we're sticking with the Zack Snyder version of Justice League. So what we could do here, this is like, this could be kind of like of in BVS, how we have Clark investigating Diana. The opposite. Diana is now investigating Clark, but she's investigating Clark Kent because she kind of suspects he's Superman, but she can't put her finger on it. So she's even doing research because she's like, there's something about him that's so familiar.
Exactly. It honestly, that was also missing because it felt like Superman was such a mystery to everyone. Like he didn't have any type of interactions too much, one-liners maybe, or with the Leaguers, but especially Diana, because her within the DCEU, the gods are dead. So
She's even
with
more alone.
yeah, so with seeing this, this being with godlike powers, and but also he's kind of like powered by the sun. So you would think he is some type of, reincarnation or descendant of Apollo. So she would definitely be interested in who he is, and especially, yeah, if we go with her um collecting, artifacts and stuff like that, and really being interested in different cultures. She definitely would be interested in his culture and who is and what is a Kryptonian. And with her knowing of Zod too, with the whole um with the invasion, and if, pieces of certain things that Zod had
What we
upon
could
Earth.
even do is, you remember that idea that Zack had, that reject idea, but the gods being Kryptonian?
Yeah.
We can make it where that's what she suspects. It's not true, but that's what she kind of suspects, that maybe the gods are like ancient Kryptonians.
It could be, or either that, or that she knows that the gods but weren't Kryptonian, or that the Kryptonians are like some type of, adjacent relation to the gods or something
That
like that.
works. So the other thing I think that we could do in this one is, at a certain point when there's like peace and everything, Clark takes her to see the fortress, and the fortress at this point, I would keep it being that Kryptonian scout ship, but keep in the Arctic. He takes it there, and he basically just lays it all out. Here's who I am. And then Diana goes, how many people have you brought here? He goes, only you.
That was sweet.
It's like that's where it shows that they're starting to like trust each other as much as they should, and like they're starting to open up to each other, because Clark opening this part of himself up to people doesn't happen that often.
Right. And especially because he feels alone too.
Mhm.
And of course that leads into the the homage scene to Justice League 12.
Yeah, exactly. By the way, this whole discussion gave me another idea, so that's 5. So this is a fantastic episode for my points. I'm gonna have 2,000 by the time this is over. So yeah, we would definitely do Justice League 12, maybe in this scene where he's teaching her, where he shows her that whole little holographic display of Krypton. We can even have it where he introduces her to like Jor-El, the like projection, like we'll say it wasn't destroyed, like it's still there, and he
Laura.
introduces her, and he goes, so you're this Diana Clark has told me all about.
And definitely Laura, because
Yeah,
I
we could do that
really
too.
don't like that she's ignored. Like she shouldn't
Yeah,
be.
she,
And especially
yeah, go ahead.
she had just as much within MLS. She had just as much of, the strength, and I don't think she wasn't a general or anything within the army in Man of
I
Steel, right?
I don't think so. I think she was just like the wife of Jor-El. They alluded that Jor-El and Zod served together in the army, kind of.
Well, definitely we're going to revamp that and have Laura be within the army. I
Yeah,
just feel
because
like
I'm
giving her,
sorry, I dog that in the new 52. I'm like, okay, that is kick ass.
yeah, it just feels like she needs a bigger role than just being the wife. It just seems so, no, like why? She gave, a natural birth, and that is something, but also give her more than just being, the wife.
Exactly. So then we get all right. So Wonder Woman 1984. Again, this is taking place in the modern day, so obviously it probably wouldn't be titled 1984. It would probably be titled like Wonder Woman 2 or something like that. And then this is where we introduce Julia and Vanessa. Would we have Vanessa become Silver Swan?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. That
And
could work.
honestly, I think that was a much better story than first, I would say introduce Priscilla Rich instead of Minerva.
Mm-hmm.
Um or that Minerva is like, if we were to keep 84, you know, we're still working within the lines of, if they just have to have her thousands of years old, a
Mm-hmm.
100 years active. Um, have Priscilla Rich be the first cheetah, and then present day introduce Minerva. But
We can even say like Minerva is like approached by the original Cheetah and says, "I can give you power."
yeah, something like that. Um, but Steve, yeah, completely out. Like he died. Let him rest in peace, and you know that's it. His story is over. Even within comics, trying to make that relationship work when obviously it's very just, it becomes stagnant. It's no relationship really. Um,
Well, what you can do in this movie is have her actually go to Steve's grave to like say goodbye or something like that.
well, he doesn't have a grave, but
Well, I mean, in this universe, in our universe, he does. So so we can just do that, just so he says. Well, actually, no, he didn't die. That's true. See, if you wanted to keep like the timeline, like you said, that's what I would do in like Wonder Woman 2. Just have her go to his grave, say goodbye, you're done.
Yeah. Uh, and and she's moved on. It's kind of like Diana, she mourned, but she didn't spend 60 years mourning a dude that she only knew for like 3 days.
Yeah, that's kind of funny when you think about the timeline of the first movie. That is only like 3 days. So I'm like, oh wow. So then we get to the ending of The Flash. So Britt, explain to the audience for context what I mean by the ending for The Flash.
Okay, so the Flash movie, a multiverse movie, it was supposed to introduce or set up multiple movies going forward. And the main thing was Flash 2, which was another multiverse movie, and set up the big uh movie event, which was Crisis. Um Crisis on Infinite Earths, I think that adaptation. Um so within the ending of this movie, we were to see if anyone watched it, you see that Michael Keaton is now the Batman of the DCEU. And, Barry has screwed up the timeline. Ben Affleck's Batman is stuck somewhere within the multiverse and he has to go find him. So at the end, Barry's father is, I think he was found not guilty and freed.
Yeah, his conviction was overturned.
Okay, yeah. So at the end, you see Keaton's Batman. He comes out of his car. I believe Supergirl was flying. She was flying a distance, I think.
I,
And then,
I, I I think she actually flew up to him and landed because there's a scene from the Flash trailer where she goes, "Are you ready?" And that's from that scene.
okay, I didn't know if she was flying or did she come down. Okay,
Yeah,
so
she flew down essentially.
so then you have Clark Kent and Diana Prince walking up the stairway of the courtroom. You have Iris too there, and then I believe he was interviewed by Jimmy Olsen. So you have a Jimmy Olsen there. Um,
Which you can always say that like the CIA assumed Jimmy's identity during that whole BVS scene, so that wouldn't really contradict anything.
yeah, and then like I said, you have Clark Kent and Diana Prince, and they are walking up together. So with that, that was supposed to set up or give, types of hints of, I believe that they were supposed to have like eye contact with Kara.
Hmm.
So Kara, that sets up Supergirl's movie. Then you have Clark, he that sets up with Cavill, that sets up Man of Steel 2. And then Wonder Woman, of course, is present day, which sets up Wonder Woman 3. Now, it's not necessarily that Cavill would have been in Wonder Woman 3. It would have been ideal um, if they were to have set up that um, because he was very much in limbo.
Hmm.
And my my bestie did send uh I shared that interview article with you
Hmm.
earlier about the whole um just everything really turned into a mess.
Yeah, because
And
from all I heard from insiders during that period is that they were trying to replace Cavill.
yeah, he Cavill was fired in 2018
Yeah.
and then he was rehired in 2020, um 2019, 2020. And but then it seemed like he was fired again and then rehired. It was just this weird time, and he was only supposed to be within Crisis, come back in Crisis and do Man of Steel 2. But that was it. And he was within the other times, within other movies, he was basically going to be headless and use like body doubles.
Which
So
that's kind of what they did for Shazam. And the thing about that, what what they should have done, if that was this is why I have a hard time believing that was the plan. If that were the plan, they should have done like a roadmap thing like the MCU does and says, here's our movies. And then one of them could be Crisis, Man of Steel 2, Wonder Woman 3. And then I would have believed it, because I'm like, okay, you're telling me what the plan is. You're telling me all the stuff is going to happen.
well, that's the
But
thing is,
but what they did is that they never told us anything. And then Hamada is like, oh, I was trying to set up Crisis. I'm like, where was the indicator that you were doing that?
well, that's the thing is that a lot of this stuff is kind of like thrown to the wall, and they make up these plans, and you have like movies being announced, but it doesn't necessarily materialize. And especially it doesn't materialize into how it initially was presented. That they go through rewrites, they go through, contractual issues, and just things change overnight. And that's basically what happened with Cavill. It was like he wanted to be Superman again. The contracts and all of that was just a mess. So with Wonder Woman 3, and then um well, back up first. Then you have Keaton.
Mhm.
And Keaton was basically supposed to be the new DCEU Batman, because um you know Affleck, he quit, he no more. So his agreement was to come back in Crisis as well. I think Flash too, because Barry is supposed to save him, but
Mhm.
mainly Crisis. And it was just basically supposed to be like this. um what we saw in the Flash was, you see, even though the CGI fest was a mess, it,
You could have
and
just had the portals open and then show like clips from each of the movies.
yeah, something like that. But that's basically what I guess Crisis would have been, having the older actors and actresses, be in their role and celebrating, I guess, even TV shows,
Mhm.
I believe too.
So you
So
probably
yeah,
would have had the Arrowverse, so we would have seen a Green Arrow, but he's really Batman, because I'm sorry, the Arrowverse Oliver Queen was not Oliver Queen.
yes, he
That still
was.
pisses me off. I
I
get that there
believe
was a bat embargo, but you could have at least made him act like Oliver Queen.
I believe they called him Walmart Batman.
Yeah, that's what
For
he was. I love that Walmart bat. That's like, Mom, Dad, can we get Batman? We have Batman at
Batman
home.
home.
That's what
Exactly.
that is. That's what that is. Flash was okay until they turned it into an ensemble show. Supergirl was god awful. God awful. I mean, first, see, the way the Arrow shows went is that the first two seasons were great, and then it went downhill.
Yeah, that that especially happens when you have budget cuts, and
Mhm.
also creative, when a writer quits or is removed from the show, and it just messes up the whole flow of things.
Mhm.
So yeah, it's always going to be that. Um but that's basically what happened with the DCEU, is that they they had one too many cooks in the kitchen, and trying to, just make a universe work that wasn't working anymore.
And they didn't communicate the plan. Because I think, again, with that crisis plan, if you had just said, like, if you had gone to San Diego Comic-Con and had one of those timelines out that says, here are the movies you want to do, it's going to culminate in crisis, like with the MCU, because they were so desperate to copy the MCU, they didn't copy what made the MCU work. Because the way the MCU works is that we know what the plan is, because we knew what Kang Dynasty was going to do. We knew it was going to culminate in Kang Dynasty, even though it's probably not going to happen now. But we at least knew, okay, Avengers Secret Wars, this. See, they give us this timeline. So we're like, okay, there you go. In the beginning of the freaking DCEU and the SnyderVerse, they gave you that timeline. Give us a roadmap so I can know what the hell I'm watching.
I mean, even with all of that, I mean, The Rock pretty much, he had the idea of like an adaptation of Kingdom Come, even though it wasn't going to be particularly like a, you know, scene by scene adaptation. It's still the fact that the idea, the plot point, you know, that's what he wanted.
Yeah, and that would have been really cool because Cavill versus Black Adam would have actually worked.
Right. So he was a little bit selfish, yeah, because he did want it to be the Black Adam show, but at the same time, he still, you know, knew that people wanted Cavill back. And even though Black Adam sort of, you know, underperformed, it was basically like, because you can't really blame The Rock for that.
And here's the thing. I find it very hard to believe that Cavill's job as Superman was determined about how Black Adam went. Because if that were true, then the plot of the movie would have been Black Adam versus Superman. By the way, if it were Black Adam versus Superman, that movie would have made $1 billion easily. But my point is, if Cavill's career was dependent upon that post-credit scene, they wouldn't. If Cavill's career was dependent on that movie, they wouldn't have made it a post-credit scene.
No, that wasn't true. It was basically the post-credit scene was tacked on, and I think he wasn't supposed to be. If it was there, he was going to be headless.
Yeah, but it was black, and I believe in the test footage he was headless and there was no dialogue. But I believe the way it works is that The Rock actually went above Hamada's head and went, "What the hell are you guys doing?"
Yeah, he said that he worked hard to finally get, you know, Cavill back, and that was the thing is that.
And here's the other thing here. You know what else had come out at this point, Brit? Zack Snyder's Justice League. So everyone is all on the Cavill train at this point.
Yeah, I mean, DC still had a long way to go for the general audience trust, but you had some type of hype. And
yeah, this is why I always said they should have capitalized on the positive, because for the first time in the DCEU's existence, DC was in the public discourse positively when the Snyder Cut got announced. You had people that were not in any way associated with DC, like the dude that made the like one of the State Farm commercials. People was like, "Please restore the SnyderVerse." So I'm like, you had all this hype. What they should have done is basically, as soon as the Snyder Cut came out, went to Zack and go, "Okay, so how much do we have to pay you to come back and complete your story?"
Yeah,
here's a piece of paper, write down what the numbers are, we're good. Because can you imagine, Brit, if the Snyder Cut came back and then they announced, okay, you know what, we're gonna do more of this and our stuff because we live in a multiverse, even though they don't know what the hell that word means, but we live in a multiverse, so you could do whatever you want here. You don't even have to use the Justice League, and then just do Zack. But anyway, Spirit of Truth, Wonder Woman 3. What you could have done here is you could have done the Spirit of Truth stuff. Essentially, adapt Spirit of Truth. Now, what you could also do in Man of Steel 2 is have it so Clark is training Kara. That's basically the plot of Man of Steel 2. And you can have it like around the lines of like All-Star Superman. You could have Brainiac be the villain stuff. two things I would want to do in Man of Steel 2 is have Kara be a little more brutal, and like she goes to kill someone, Clark stops her, and then she goes, "But you killed someone." He goes, "Trust me, you don't want that. You don't want that like on your conscience or something like that." So it's showing that like he was. So it's further telling people that he didn't just shrug off killing Zod. So throughout that movie, you can also tease where like Clark gets distracted by like a billboard of Wonder Woman, and Supergirl is like, "So you have the hots for Wonder Woman, huh?" And he goes, "No." You can kind of have Kara teasing him about Diana.
Yeah, and both of them being mentors
Mm-hmm.
of Kara really makes sense. Well, well, I don't know if well, he is supposed to be established because, of course, everything DC does is off screen, so we don't really see
Yeah.
so much of Cavill's development as Superman. So I would say that
Well,
within
the other
this,
thing is that according to Zack, we would have seen that in Man of Steel too, because at that point you already had like because at this point in the DCU timeline, if they like release the actual cut of Justice League, you would have had Man of Steel, so the public knows who Superman is. BVS takes place roughly 2 years after that. Then you have Zack Snyder's Justice League, where he comes back to life and like against Steppenwolf. You have the Justice League and Man of Steel 2. So you kind of saw a little more of his establishment as a hero.
yeah, but that's too much like right for for
Mm-hmm.
DC within anything. So I guess, but if we're going within the context of what we were given, he is still pretty much learning himself, you know, of his own heritage and just trying to, you know, find that balance
And
that
that's
he
how you have
needs.
Kara. Kara's teaching about the Kryptonian heritage and stuff.
And facing her own trauma that she sees her cousin that he was able to and I liked that she felt her like she had to protect, you know, baby Cal, and to
Mm-hmm.
see him grown as, you know, as a grown man, and that he did have a life, um, you know, of people who cared for him. And yeah, but he did have his own trauma, and that is something that they could, you know, get through together. And him now it's time for him to help her, you
Mm-hmm.
know, um, with her trauma of he was not captured by the government and wasn't tortured or anything like that. She was. So he can see that, like, wow, I didn't go through that as a Kryptonian, you know, I wasn't captured by the government, but I could have been.
Mm-hmm.
And then Kara, I don't think that she would have resentment. I don't think so. I think that she would just be grateful to the Kents
No,
that
because
they,
here's the thing. At this point in the timeline, remember, because in the Flash, she starts to see more of the good in humanity. That's partly why she wants to fight Zod. Because remember, Barry
right,
saved her, and like when she asked him, even when I was in Cal, why did you still save me? He goes, because it was the right thing to do.
yeah. So, so we have that established. And then Diana and Kara, their dynamic would be the big sister, younger sister, with Diana helping, you know, train her, just like she did in Post Crisis, or I think it was Pre Crisis too. Yeah,
Hey,
it was Pre Crisis too.
if she's the ambassador in this universe, we could always basically make a movie that's Superman and Batman Apocalypse.
Yes, right.
Eh? I would
Yeah.
be so down for that because I freaking love that movie. And that would be actually just call it DC Trinity Apocalypse, because it's a Trinity story. It's not a Batman Superman story.
Right. Yeah, so basically everyone, Kara, uh, Clark, and Diana, are basically going through the trauma phase and learning from each other and helping each other through, you know, these different aspects and giving each other different perspectives. And now that Kara is like, well, I don't know how old Sasha's Supergirl was. I think she was like still a teen,
Yeah,
maybe
I
19 or
I
so.
think so. Yeah.
So if you have Kara's 19, and then you have Clark, I think he was 32, 30, 35. Then Diana, uh, I mean, immortal. She has the mind of probably the same age as Clark, being a 35-year-old or something. So, yeah, you have that older sibling, between uh Kara and Diana. Then you have the cousins and that dynamic, and then you have Clark and Diana being like have this underlying romance developing between them. And that's pretty much how we would have this world, especially within the context of Diana, and how this story of Spirit of Truth really should have been Wonder Woman 84, or if we just revamp the whole thing and be Wonder Woman 2 and skip the whole 84 and go to the present. I would still have Vanessa, Julian and Vanessa
Mhm.
introduced because they were her solid supporting cast.
Yeah,
Like
you kind
beyond,
they were parts of the Wonder Woman lore that you kind of need.
yes, beyond Steve, honestly, especially because Wonder Woman is a mother and daughter story through and through. It's a feminist story. It's not about her being with the first guy she met. It's not about that. It's about womanhood. And Julie and Vanessa are that depiction, a mirror and a source of Diana and Hippolyta. And that is a story that should have been told. And especially from the fact of, you know, Gal, she has daughters. And Patty, she she directed Monster, I think that was the movie. But
Mhm.
it
And she was going to
basically,
direct Thor 2, by the way.
really
Yeah,
interesting.
she was originally supposed to direct Thor: The Dark World, but I think because of creative differences, she left, and then she went on to do Wonder Woman. I think. I
Oh,
think that's the way the story goes.
um, interesting. So within, you know, she has the capability of doing epic, Wonder Woman and partially understanding. So, yeah, I just 84 is erased and, not even a thing. You go, if we are in the context of what the DCEU or whatever they um wanted to call, that verse, just skip 84 and go on to the present day, um, but still have Vanessa and Julia. I Etta, I mean, she really
Mhm.
didn't have a role much in the first movie. Um,
True.
so if she passed on, that is fine. Um, and Steve definitely pass on. Bye. um,
Mhm.
yeah, but mostly it I really would have thought that within the time you would have really emphasized on Diana being an ambassador, and especially with the fact that she is a more global hero of and not so much she doesn't have to be in the same place. And then with Superman, it's like with Man of Steel 2, it would have been the same thing. Is that he broke up with Lois or something, or she's just not at all um mentioned.
Maybe Lois does die. Maybe they keep that plot point, but it doesn't turn him into Darkseid's like little slave.
Even that is perfectly fine too. Um
Like
and
the way I could see that is that they still wanted to keep some elements of the DCEU. Let's say they bring Zack back, they could do that, because what Zack can do is he can prove that injustice doesn't happen if you just kill Lois. And if he does that, I'm gonna hold that in Tom Taylor's face, even though he blocked me. By the way, I don't even care he blocked me because I'm like, first off, I didn't do anything. I guess because I'm followed by Ethan Van Sciver, but besides that. But anyway, that's a good place to leave it. By the way, before we end off, I really want to say one thing. Shout out to Emperor Luffy, who's been watching our stuff for so long and sharing it to Reddit and hopping in the trenches with those people. Shout out to you, man.
Yes, because honestly, what we've been seeing a lot of, and it's been, years of this, but, and, a lot of people just have they don't have any respect. And, um, you can like what you like, and, you know, um, it just can't be so over the top and disrespectful. But if you're just minding your own business in your own, corner or whatever, or it's so harmless, but so many people want to attack you for what you like because you're not following the herd of sheep, you know,
And they
that is
call us
something.
a cult. Isn't that kind of funny? These same people call the Snyder people a cult. But if you deviate in any way, particularly the Superman fan base, you get attacked.
Right. And I just, for all of the fans that still, like, regardless, they continue to speak up, and they continue to, post or be or are so open to say that they are fans of the SnyderVerse, the New 52, Superman and Wonder Woman. You know, you are okay to, stand up for yourself. And a lot of these old guard fans or some bandwagon fans want people to be silent. And that is something that you shouldn't do. And the thing is, they claim to be fans of Superman and Wonder Woman, but yet they want to silence you and they want to
Exactly.
judge
And
you.
that's not what Superman and Wonder Woman would want to do. And it's even with me because when I started this, it's like the reason why I wanted to be so open about, for one thing, Snyderverse and Superman, Wonder Woman, and New 52. It's not just because it brought views, even though that's a nice little bonus there. It's that I wanted because I know what it's like to like something but feel like you're alone with liking that. So really what I wanted to do, I mean, it's like what Zack Snyder put in Zack Snyder's Justice League when Cyborg says, I'm not broken and I'm not alone. So I kind of wanted to do that for other people.
Yeah. And, you know, and this channel is very welcoming. And there's a lot of, like, with Reddit, with CBR, with it was Comic Vine, I think,
Hmm.
and other forums, you know, there was a lot of back and forth, and there always will be. That's how fan bases are. I mean, and fan bases are very much divided, but it's even more so, and it's more hostile, toxic, and just all around negative. I mean, so many people want to send, people death threats. And we talked about it earlier of how so many people feel like they can get away with talking about other people and just being so rude because they're hiding behind a computer or a cell phone or whatever. But if you was in that person's face, in person, you wouldn't act like this. So for everyone that's just so genuinely, respectful, and, you know, we can agree to disagree, but it's all, first of all, it's just fiction. So you can't really take this stuff serious. But the only thing that I really take serious is the personal attacks. I really do. Because I don't know you. from a can of paint. So for you to judge my character and judge me and you don't know me is
Or say
just,
I don't read the comics, even though you can see my background, guys.
yeah, or something like that. I don't take that lightly at all. I don't like it. And yeah. So for this channel though, and Jared, you are such a good person.
Oh, thank
And
you.
I'm so grateful for you to be my friend because, you know, it's I write, the fan fictions. I talk, sometimes on the socials. I do run the Instagram page, but to verbally talk now and have this show is something that is a different form of showing my, love and care for this fandom and these characters and this couple. And it has, um really just broaden, my interest in a lot of other things too.
Mhm.
And yeah, so I want to thank you for that because
Anytime.
honestly, I really wouldn't have done this before. I would only be doing, fan fictions, but just this show really has taught me a lot of with the research that I'm doing,
Hmm.
um,
And trust me,
every
she
week.
does extensive research.
Yeah, it has really changed my perspective of things as well.
Mhm.
So again, I want to thank you for your support of me and then for this show.
Well, anytime. And thank you because truthfully, when I started this show specifically, I didn't expect it to be as popular as it is, honestly, because this show is probably the most popular thing on the channel now by a mile. And really, see, the thing about this and what I've detected is that yeah, because I spent like 2 years where it was just me doing the channel and stuff, and yeah, that gets fun to a certain point, but really, mm, a lot. A big reason why people show up is for the analysis that you give, Brit, and like your very cogent ways and your very peaceful voice to listen to. So there is that's like the number one comment I get all the time. So
Thank
I'm
you.
very grateful for you to be a member of my team.
Thank you. It's just all love, and that is what we need within. I mean, the world is already just a mess.
Hmm.
So we need that, and what this was is an escape from that. And when you pull that negative, energy and that toxic and hatefulness within what was supposed to be an escape from it in reality, it's just like, where can you go? And and you're being surrounded by these people who just bring that type of dark cloud, and you don't need that. And
Hmm.
it's so many people who have um they have these emotional issues and feeling of depression, and suicide is on high because of what we dealt with COVID and
Hmm.
just the world changing. But we need more positivity, and this channel and you are one of those people that bring such positiveness and welcoming. And yeah, we again agree to disagree on certain things, ships or whatever, but it's all in good fun though. As I
Hmm.
said, it's fictional characters, and we can make it work and still be. No, I'm not saying that we can be like kumbaya and all of that utopia thing, but we can still be friendly because we still all have that mutual love of these characters. And these characters have been around for decades, almost 100 years now. There's multiple iterations. And the reason why we love these characters is because of one iteration that we've grown attached to. And we end up loving the character for themselves. And that's okay. You don't have to like the same iteration. You because that's the point.
Hmm. That's why there's so many iterations of DC.
Yeah,
So
but just respect
Mhm.
other people's opinions, and we can definitely see a difference within the fan base as long as you just have respect. And that's pretty much what this and what I take from this show is that we are putting facts out there. We are letting people know that yeah, it's okay to ship Superman and Wonder Woman together. They've had this relationship on and off or whatever for decades. And it's just to have fun. And that is what these characters are supposed to be about, having fun.
exactly. So, Britt, on that note, and by the way, I remember all 5 of my ideas, so you may end up hating me after this. So,
Oh my God.
do you have any stories that you want to tease us with?
Okay, so oh, and I also want to say thank you also to all the supporters because we are at
Mhm.
61,000
Yes.
on Instagram. We hit it today.
Okay. Where's
Yeah.
okay? So you know what, Britt? You get this.
Yeah, it is very exciting for that and just that response. And it is the highest following for a ship on Instagram. So it's kind of like, yeah,
Suck
for
it,
people
Chloe.
yeah, for people who to say that no one supports Superman and Wonder Woman, yeah, no, I have proof right on my page. So, but going to with fan fictions, of course we have chapter 2 of Shelter, multiple story ideas that you are having with this extended verse that we have.
Mhm.
Um more Austria one shots that I am near close to finishing, and also the Athens chapter 4. That is near finish, which I am very proud of, especially introducing Donna and the sneak peek that I showed you of our little side story um, that is basically a tonight chapter. And yeah, just finishing these one shot stories that I have sort of abandoned and getting
Mhm.
back to and ready to, you know, um, I'm satisfied with the ending of them. So they will be uploaded soon. And we will get back to Shelter and continue on expanding that verse because we already have like 10 stories.
Oh yes, exactly. It's gonna be a lot. We have we have a more cogent universe than the DCEU. So on that note, everyone, stay heroic, and we'll see you in the next one.